Hello, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. It's Sunday, the 3rd of July. You're watching 6 News. Our top stories tonight. Reports emerge that the Victorian Liberals have been training locals in Labor-held electorates to run as independents, including in Premier Dan Andrews' seat, as the voices of Kooyong Group, which back Meg Ryan, eyes a number of key inner-city state seats. Blast tributes continue to pour in from across the political spectrum following the death of Labor MP Jane Garrett at the age of just 49, with her family revealing her cancer recently returned after some time in remission. Victorian Premier, Opposition Leader and MP is now paying tribute to the former minister. And later,
about the same level of passengers as we were pre-pandemic, but we'll be about 70% of the staffing levels, and that's the challenge that we're facing.
Fears of cancellations amid wet weather in multiple states as air travel soars to levels not seen since before the pandemic, with school holidays happening right now across the country. New advice coming in from airports and from airlines about how you can best be prepared. Good evening, nice to be back on air. We've found a studio, we've got something, we've got a lot coming up tonight, including a look at those floods happening in New South Wales, also the Bragg by-election. But first tonight, independent candidates dominated the federal election with a total of 10 independent MPs now in the lower house. The so-called Teal independents claim victory across 3 states, Victoria, New South Wales and WA. And with the Victorian state election fast approaching, we may be about to see more of them, even if the issues focused on during the federal campaign are different to the ones that voters may care about when voting at a state level. Now, new reports are emerging tonight that the Liberals have been providing support to independent candidates, with claims that for over a year the party has been training well-known locals to run in a number of Labor-held seats, including Premier Dan Andrews' seat of Mulgrave. Portling and Holmes has the details.
Only a couple of months ago, independent candidates were picking up seats right across the country in the federal election.
Okay, Simon Holmes Court, this is
over this crowd.
It is really
10 independents, many of them known as Teal independents, taking a number of key seats from Liberal MPs in what were previously safe seats. And now, with the Victorian state election fast approaching, we may be about to see more Teal independent MPs. It's suspected the seats where independents may be able to claim victory are all within inner Melbourne, such as Brighton, Hawthorn and Kew. The seat of Bullen, held by opposition leader Matthew Guy, is also another possible target. Hawthorn is held by first-term Labor MP John Kennedy. The state district is included in the federal Kooyong electorate, which was won by Meg Ryan. Many polling booths in Hawthorn saw a high vote for Dr. Ryan compared to Josh Frydenberg. It's also been reported in The Age, in addition to Hawthorn and Kew, the Voices of Kooyong Group is looking for candidates in Ashwood and Box Hill. The independents backed by Climate 200 at the federal election mainly focus their campaigns on issues like women's rights, climate change, and anti-corruption commission, issues some people doubt would play a key role in the Victorian election. Tonight, The Age is also reporting that the Victorian Liberals are providing support to independent candidates in Labor-held seats, with 3 sources claiming that for 18 months, the party has been training well-known locals to run in a number of seats. Premier Daniel Andrews' seat of Mulgrave is a likely target. He's held it since 2002 and was re-elected in 2018 with a swing of more than 8% towards him. On a two-party preferred basis, he sits at more than 62%. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
And the Freedom Party of Victoria is also set to reveal their candidate for Dan Andrews' seat of Mulgrave. The party says they'll announce their candidate outside the Victorian Premier's electorate office tomorrow morning. They say that a, quote, former Member of Parliament turned teacher will be first cab off the rank for the Freedom Party and will be present for a statement alongside the party's state leader and state director. I wonder who that'll be. Freedom Party Deputy Leader Aidan mclindon recently spoke to 6 News. You can check out the full interview on our YouTube channel right now. Tributes are continuing to pour in tonight following the death of Victorian Labor MP and former Minister Jane Garrett. Ms Garrett was the member for Brunswick from 2010 until 2018 when she transferred to the Eastern Victoria region in the Victorian Legislative Council. Before entering Parliament, Garrett served as a senior advisor to then Premier Steve Bragg from 2000 until 2004. She was also formerly the Minister for Emergency Services and Minister for Consumer Affairs, Gambling and Liquor Regulation. In a statement, her family said that her cancer, quote, recently returned after some time in remission, and she was admitted to hospital earlier this week. They also thanked the staff at the Epworth Freemasons for their, quote, love and care of Jane over the last years and particularly over the past week. Victorian Premier Dan Andrews said in a statement that Jane lived a life of service to the Labor movement, to the Labor Party and to our state, while Opposition Leader Matthew Guy said her death was immensely sad news, adding that she was bold and brave and won't be forgotten. Liberal MP Tim Smith said Jane was, quote, one of the best people I've ever met. She could light up a room like no one else, and she was also one of the most principled politicians this country has seen for decades. Democratic Labor MP Bernie Finn also said via Facebook he was deeply shocked and saddened by Jane Garrett's untimely death. She was honourable, principled and courageous. She was a delightful person and I enjoyed her company very much. Garrett announced in December last year she was not seeking re-election at the November state election. She was 49. Changing pace now, and after the census results were revealed tonight, new revelations are coming in about what you may have missed about all that data from right across the country. Political reporter Roman McKinnon has more.
Tonight we're going to be taking a look at the census results. Now the census was conducted last year in 2021 and the results were released earlier this week. Let's have a full analysis on this. So a quick few facts. So almost 80% of Australians live on the east coast of Australia, 66 in capital cities and 33 in the rest of Australia. There were 315,000 overseas travellers in 2016. That was the last census, compared to 61,000 in 2021. And there were Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander population grew by 0.7% since 2011 and 0.4% since 2016. Now, let's take a quick look at the states. Queensland grew to a 5.1 million population, 22.7% were born overseas, and the average income for an individual was $787. New South Wales continues to be a big number of population, 8.1 million there, the highest in the country. 71% of households were family households and 1 in 3 rented a house. In Victoria, there were 6.5 million residents living there, and it continues to be the most livable city in Australia. The median age is 38. In Tasmania, down there, 558,000 residents. The average income for an individual was just over $700, and 33% owned a mortgage. And South Australia had just under 2 million residents. 2% of those residents were First Nations people, and 78% of South Australians lived in houses compared to flats, apartments, etc. So WA has 2.7 million residents, 62% were born in Australia, and 41% of those 2.7 million are Christians. Also, I've just combined the territories, so 686 residents combined, 9,000. There's 9,000 First Nations people in the ACT, and of course a big number, 61,000 in the NT. And a combined total of those both figures released a percentage, 53% of both of those were born in Australia. Let's go to the population now. So 25,422,788. So that grew since 2016. Just over 2 million, and of those 2 million, just over 1 million were migrants. And now let's look at the age bracket. So as you can see, the baby boomers and millennials are deadlocked at 21.5%, and baby boomers are 55 to 74 years of age, and millennials are 25 to 39 years of age. And finally, so In the health category, I'm just going to skim over this very fast. Just over 2 million Australians reported a mental health condition, and housing, so 31% of Australians own their own home, 35% mortgage, and 30% rent. Alright, and that is our results. Of course, I'll be back on Spin Check later next week on Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern.
And the census has also revealed that Victoria may lose 2 federal electorates in boundary redistributions for the next election. I know it's getting a bit ahead of ourselves here due to the population, though, being smaller than it was pre-pandemic. Now, the state lost more than 100,000 residents, and that may result in a number of Victorian federal seats being abolished. The AEC describes redistributions as a redrawing of electoral boundaries to ensure, as near as practicable, each state and territory gains representation in the House of Reps in proportion to their population. Now, the last time we saw a change in federal election amounts was ahead of the 2019 election, where it increased from 150 to 151. That's a total of 47 in New South Wales, 39 in Victoria, 30 in Queensland, 15 in WA, 10 in South Australia, 5 in Tasmania, 3 in the ACT, and 2 for the Northern Territory. Well, the Liberals have claimed victory in the South Australian Bragg by-election, even as the Electoral Commission warns it may take days to finalise results due to pre-polling and postal votes. For a bit of context, this seat was, before the March state election, considered a very safe seat for the Liberals on a margin of 16.9%, but that was reduced down to 8.2% in March. Now it's even slimmer, the two-party preferred count between the ALP and the Libs, showing less than 1% difference at one stage late last night. Labor also claimed victory in the booth of Burnside. Also in the running, Greens candidate Jim Bastiras with about 16 to 18% of the vote. Family First with just over 2%. The Lib Dems with similar numbers, and Neil Atkinson, who ran under the label of Independent Freedom Family Life on the ballot paper, picking up less than 1% of the vote. Of course, as we mentioned, results still coming in. More coverage on social media at SIXNewsAU or at our website, SIXNewsAU.com. Well, there's fears of more flight cancellations tonight amid wet weather in multiple states as air travel soars to levels not seen since before the pandemic, with school holidays, of course, happening right across the country. Tonight, we're also getting new advice from airports and airlines about how you can be best prepared with more delays expected. Reporter Austin Pollock has the latest developments.
The school holidays are taking off across the country, with air travel soaring to levels not seen since pre-pandemic.
We'll be at about the same level of passengers as we were pre-pandemic, but we'll be about 70% of the staffing levels, and that's the challenge that we're facing.
Estimates from Sydney and Melbourne airports predict that they will each see 2.1 million passengers travel through their terminals, compared to 1.8 million during Easter, when the system, still recovering from COVID job losses, caused some passengers to wait up to 2 hours to clear security at airports across the country. Qantas announcing that they have secured 1,000 operational team members, including cabin crew, airport customer service, pilots and engineers, as well as putting more staff on standby to minimise any impact of sick leave or COVID isolation requirements.
We have 15% more people on ground handling. The airports have more people on security.
But fears more cancellations and delays could cause mass chaos this week as wet weather sets in across New South Wales and Queensland, creating the perfect storm. It comes after airports weren't quite ready for the Easter holiday rush, but this time around, so far, it's not as bad. And it's not just the domestic terminals feeling the strain. Brisbane Airport predicts that its international terminal will see passenger numbers of up to 50% of pre-pandemic levels by the end of the month. Airports want customers to arrive ahead of time, 2 hours for domestic flights and 3 hours for international flights. It all comes at a time where Qantas is announcing it's going to be cutting flights until March next year.
It's mainly on high-frequency routes, so like Melbourne-Sydney, which has 55 flights a day, and it takes place, it will be taking place from September.
So the advice is clear: if you're travelling these holidays, be prepared for some delays, but make sure you arrive early, just not too early. Austin Pollock, 6 News.
And as we've been hearing, more floods are continuing to be a worry for many in New South Wales. The state is on high alert tonight as heavy rain continues. Over 1,000 calls for help were made to the state's SES overnight, with thousands in low-lying areas ordered to leave their homes or risk becoming isolated as those floodwaters rise. Authorities say more heavy rain is still to come. We'll have a full forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Ash Barty has been named Person of the Year at the 2022 National NAIDOC Awards. The ABC reports the tennis star was celebrated for her sporting achievements and a role as an ambassador who encourages Indigenous youth to get active, explore their passion and, of course, play tennis. AFL superstar Lance Franklin and actor Uncle Jack Charles were also honoured at the awards ceremony. Overseas now, US President Joe Biden has vowed to protect women travelling for an abortion. Biden said he believed some states would attempt to arrest women who cross state lines for abortion access, but he added that women who were attempting to travel for that access would be protected by the federal government. The BBC now reporting that there are fears that in states that are limiting or fully banning abortion, police could try to access search histories and geolocation data on smartphones owned by people who are pursuing plans to terminate a pregnancy. The Palestinian Authority has agreed to hand over the bullet that killed Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh to the US authorities for examination. According to Al Jazeera, the UN Human Rights Office said that information it had gathered showed the bullet that killed her was fired by Israeli forces, backing up several witnesses who said the same. Palestinian leaders have rejected proposals for a joint probe with Israel, saying it wouldn't be transparent. Taking a look at what's making news on SIXNewsAU.com right now. While the Liberals have managed to hold that state seat of Bragg in South Australia, it's come with a pretty significant swing against them. At one point, as we mentioned before, the two-party preferred count showing less than a single percentage between Labor and the Liberals. We've got full details there. Also, Independent Senator Rex Patrick has thanked his incredible staff and advisors on his final day as Senator for South Australia. 6 coalition senators are not returning to the Parliament. Labor lost Christina Keneally's old seat, although gained a seat in WA, while the Liberal Democrats, Centre Alliance and the Rex Patrick team all lost one each. And as you heard just before, the fallout from Roe v Wade being overturned tonight continues. But how did it all happen? Not just last week, but back to that original Roe v Wade case in 1973, a detailed analysis piece, as well as the stories you've mentioned tonight and plenty more available right now, SIXNewsAU.com. Now it's Ivan and Luke with a look at what's coming up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on WAMN News, major multicultural leader calls for shake-up of training for WA ambulance officers. An exclusive report.
Abortion overturned. Perth's outrage following the recent court ruling in America.
Our nation tops list again over the highest amount of ice used per person in the world.
Have your face painted in the city, a surprise for a champion of Perth's culturally diverse communities. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WAMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Alright, thanks both Ivan and Luke there. Now to tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country, and we are expecting that wet weather to continue across large parts of the nation. Brisbane, a chance of showers, 15. Showers in Sydney, 26 degrees. Heavy rain in Canberra, getting to a top of 13. Melbourne, partly cloudy, 14. 13 in Hobart, 15 in Adelaide. Starting the day at -2 in Alice Springs, getting up to a sunny top of 14 later in the day though. Also sunny in Perth, 20 degrees, and in Darwin a warm top of 28. Before we go tonight, recapping our top stories and reports have emerged tonight that the Victorian Liberals have been training locals in Labor-held electorates to run as independent candidates in the November state election. That includes Premier Dan Andrews' seat of Mulgrave, as the Voices of Kooyong group, which backed independent Monique Ryan, eyes a number of key inner city state seats. And just finally, as you can tell, we're back on air. I said last week, God willing, we'll be back on air. We are here. We set up a makeshift studio at home, so we don't actually have like a proper studio. However, unlike previous home studios you've seen, and I promise I'm not going to do this long 3-minute monologue again, it is more a permanent one. We've got proper lighting. We've fixed up all our equipment, so we are on air. This is looking like our next home, hopefully, at my home. So I don't have to go far at least this time. In terms of the other studio, we'll keep you updated on when it'll be demolished or not. We've taken everything out, but that's it for that. Now, of course, we still do need your support. Patreon.com/SIXNewsAU. Again, just $4 a month, exclusive benefits, including the East Plus West podcast. But again, Thankfully, we are back on there and we appreciate all your support so much from last week, so thank you all for that. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest headlines by heading to our website, SIXNewsAU.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6NewsAU to find us. Again, help keep us independent. Donate just $4 a month and receive exclusive benefits at patreon.com/6NewsAU. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Goodbye.